What's going on, Sideboard podcast listeners? This is your host, Caleb Williamson. Quick take, if you haven't checked out our new merch, go check it out. And joining me today is none other than Tim.
How's it going?
Good. It's going good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Yeah, like I said, I'm doing good. Just, grinding away. Took this semester off from school, so just working on the YouTube life, bringing you guys this glorious content, and that's about it.
Yep. Pretty nice.
Yep. So
a little bit better coloring on my end now.
Cool.
We're messing with some stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, so what's up, man?
Nothing much. Let's just get this episode started and get our listeners some good content. So for you guys today, we have an interesting topic. It's not just Dragon Ball related, but we wanted to bring it to you guys because it's pretty prevalent in the market today. And even though that's a spoiler, our topics for today are going to be on collectors and what they do for games, market value and what that means, and then as well going along with those two is buyouts. So let's just talk about collectors real quick. Tim, what do you think the importance of collectors are in a card game or in anything in general, and like what do they do for it now that we're starting to get some in DBS?
Yeah, so first I want to say I'm glad we have collectors coming into our game now.
Mm-hmm.
That shows promise, because typically collectors won't come into a game that is dying.
Yeah,
because then there's no value in it for them in the long term.
Yeah.
That being said, because of the IP that our primary game of DBS is, whether the game in the future dies or not, there's still going to be value retained solely based on the IP.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a weird like ebb and flow when you're thinking about like the long term of collectors for our game. But I think overall it's a very good thing. And I think because our game hasn't had very many collectors in it before, people don't really know how to react to it.
Yeah.
So like I say this on almost every episode. I reference how I've played Magic and played older formats, which has a lot of very expensive cards that are basically staple in those formats. And it's most of the time, it depends. There's a topic we'll touch on later for the Magic part. But for old Magic, part of the high value is due to Wizards of the Coast reserve list, but another part of it is factored in by like popularity and like tournament result.
Yeah.
And there's like two very distinct paths when valuing cards. And there's some cards that are in both of those sections. You know, they're highly playable staple cards, but they're also very old and very collectible. Yeah, I think, just kind of the fact that we haven't really had that for DBS yet is causing a lot of the craziness going on, because people don't really know how to react to it.
Yeah. So for reference for the listeners, the craziness you're talking about is going to be like buyouts. We're seeing a lot of price hikes on things like SPRs, so the special rares and the secret rares. The prices are just skyrocketing. Tournament of Power booster packs, I think one pack is like $500. And so just things like that, and people are very like, whoa, what's happening? Like should I be buying these things because they're going up in price? Should I be selling them? And I think kind of what you're trying to get is that this is basically collectors coming into our game.
Yeah, and I think part of it also is like, because it hasn't happened and people may not know how to really react to it on like the secondary market. It's causing people to just hike up the prices just based on hype.
Yeah.
And I just want to let you all know, especially if any of you listeners are people that are doing that, you're not going to sell at those prices. Very few cards will actually sell at hype prices, especially in our game.
Right.
I've seen it for so many years in Magic. I've seen it through random buyouts. I've seen it through orchestrated buyouts. It's going to crash. So I think a smart thing to do if you're in a position where you want to sell something that this is happening to is find a number somewhere in between where it's showing and where it was actually selling, and find somewhere that's somewhere in the middle. So that way, you know, you're still going to profit.
Yeah.
But you'll actually move the product.
Yeah. So I'm a business major, and a lot of you guys know that, but this is like completely within my degree, and it's just very interesting to watch the market evolve and things set into motion that are real life principles. You know, we have things like price volatility, which is like the unstable change in prices that Tim's talking about due to things like buyouts, which are when someone or some group of people purchase all of the cards of a certain type, and they basically control what's called the supply. And what that does is, in traditional economics, that would theoretically, if someone controls all of the supply, they can drive up the price and then just charge whatever they want. And so what Tim is saying is like, someone or some people, or even a lot of different people, are buying a certain card for whatever reason. Maybe collectors are buying the special rares and secret rares or whatever. And these older cards are getting bought up, which means that the price is going to go up because TCGPlayer and certain other websites work off like an algorithm. So if cards get bought very quickly, then they'll shoot the price up to reduce buyouts. Because, you know, in an economy, everyone needs to be selling and buying things. And if someone buys everything and then doesn't sell it, nobody's making money there. Nobody's winning. So they do that to like slow down the buying of something, if that makes any sense. But that's like a little bit more specific and not really relevant right now. But yeah, I agree. I mean, when you see cards like, I have my TCGPlayer app open up on my other screen over here, and
there's been some crazy ones. I mean, like the other day I put in our group chat, because I saw Evan Glover post it, the SPR Super Shenron from, what was that, set 6, I think?
It was a while ago.
I think it was set 6. It's like over $100. And I have not once ever in this game seen it in a deck list. Not even like as a meme. So that one's 100% a collector thing. But again, like that's not a price that you're gonna sell that card at.
Yeah, exactly.
So like what I was saying before, find somewhere lower than what it's showing, but maybe still a little bit more than what it previously was at. And you'll have way more bites because it's more realistic.
And it's only if you want to sell. Like this, we're not telling people to, you know, sell cards or whatever, or encouraging buyouts or sellouts or anything like that. We're just saying like some advice for people and how to react to when a buyout occurs or something happens to a card you own. like, what do I do? People are asking, what do I do? And it depends on the card, really. Like, if it's I would say format playable card or standard playable, or if you're playing commander playable, then maybe you should consider keeping it, because you play that format often, and it's a card you have in your deck or whatever, and yeah, it shoots up to 200% its actual value or something, but is it worth it to sell? Because what if it stays that high, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to predict those things. Me and Tim could give you as much advice as we can, but at the end of the day, we can't predict the future.
Yeah. And like, I want to touch on something. I know it's in our later notes, but I just want to touch on it very quickly before we get further in. Like market watch and all that kind of stuff. No matter what game it is, or even if it's not a game, just market watching in general, it is a form of investing.
Yeah.
So anyone who is participating in it needs to understand that there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. Sometimes you can capitalize on something that you weren't expecting. I mean, last week we saw like thousands of people make an absurd amount of money out of nowhere with the GameStop stocks.
Yeah.
I mean, the power of the internet is incredible. With that being said, I mean, that was an orchestrated thing. And like, we see orchestrated buyouts of things all the time. I don't know if you pay attention to it with Magic or not. I've seen it probably over 100 times in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
Just recently, there was a huge orchestrated buyout of Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah.
And
I was actually looking to buy one of those because they were like $80 when I looked. And then
the funny thing
now
is,
they're not.
Right before I came to DBS, there was an orchestrated buyout of Wheel of Fortune like a month or so before that. I'm actually a part of the group that orchestrated that, but I didn't take part in it.
Mm-hmm.
But they've done it on the same card now in the span of like 3 years. I mean, it is also a reserve list card.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that towards the end, but it's just kind of, people are crazy.
Yeah. I mean, like, you can see people on any of the buying and selling pages for a card game, and the ones that are the buyout orchestrators, because honestly, I think they should be more careful. But you'll see something happen. Somebody posts a price of a card like, whoa, that's not right. And then everyone goes and looks at it because everyone knows you can Photoshop TCG pictures. And so they look, and the price is like $1 zillion for some not good card. And then you're like, what? Like, why? And then you see someone selling at TCG 85% low, 30 play sets available. And it's like, oh, okay, I see what you did there.
That is a buyout.
Yeah. And that's what we call artificial demand.
And that's also like kind of a different thing when one solo person does it versus like a collective group of people all buying like a couple copies. I mean, sure, it ends up being the same result of the price of the card spiking, but I guess it's more acceptable when it's like a large amount of people that all bought it, because I guess it looks more normal.
Yeah. In business, we call that an oligopoly. So you have two types of like monopolies, basically. You have one that's a normal monopoly, mono, that's one person. And then you have an oligopoly, which is multiple people. It could be like, usually it's like 3 to 5 people or businesses. And so it's the same concept. The difference is it's a collected group of people that are all benefiting off of everyone doing the same thing. And the problem with that is that in an oligopoly, nobody can price cut the other person because it hurts everyone. if one person starts to sell out at a lower price, then everyone suffers because the price just skyrocket, or not skyrocket, but the opposite of that, it just plummets.
Yeah.
And now all these people that tried to make money off of something are going to end up probably losing money unless they get out quick.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking like thousands and potentially millions of dollars, that's definitely a serious thing. But I feel like with card games, it's not as big of an issue because you're not working with as much capital.
Yeah.
At least typically.
Well, yeah. And also, like, you know, someone selling out or price cutting everyone else would be like, you know, just barely above their cost margin, you know. Like if they paid $1 per card, then they're selling at like $1.10 per card versus like $20 a card if that's what it shot up to or something.
Yeah. I mean, not even anything like that small. They could even, you know, sell it like $4 or $5. Because then you're still at, you know, 20 to 25% under, or I guess it'd be 75 to 80% under everyone else.
Yeah.
So obviously yours is going to sell.
Right. So it's kind of interesting because, like, on one hand, you want these like buyout talks and everything are interesting to me because on one hand, I want my collection to be worth something. But on the other hand, I want new people to be able to get into the game and play at a competitive level. And so you have this interesting balance where, you know, these buyouts are happening, but also, you know, people want people to get into the game, so they're selling their cards that they bought out instead of sitting on them. And it's just this weird back and forth thing that I think happens in every card game. And it's like, I don't know if it's good or not. I don't know.
I mean, there's definitely parts that are good and parts that are not good. I think a large part of why it's been so volatile for DBS is the fact that we don't have multiple formats or set rotation or anything like that. So I feel like if we did, it would more accurately justify some of these like fluctuations, I guess. Because then you'd have older cards, obviously not in print, that are worth more. One, because they're not in print, but two, because they're getting played in their format. And that way you wouldn't have such a large barrier to entry just for your base entry format.
Yeah.
So that would also help, you know, new players coming into the game also.
Yeah. I think the type of buyout we're discussing with like competitively playable cards happens a significantly lower amount as often than buyouts for collectors cards. And that's also two different discussions as well. Is like, usually you'll see when a deck wins an event or an obscure deck tops an event, the cards for that deck will get bought out. Perfect example is a couple weekends ago, Launch won an event. I think it was in Canada, and it was running the Eradicator Piccolo Jr., which is the 2-drop red-green one.
Yeah,
and
draft box 6.
Yeah, like I bought those. I don't know.
You bought them when it dropped, like when draft box came out.
Yeah, a few months ago, because I like red-green cards, and so I just bought them because I wanted them, and turns out they're pretty good. And so they're now, I bought them for like 15 each, which is I think a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's definitely a fair price.
They're 45 to 50 a piece. And so, you know, that's like a buyout caused, and it's not even a buyout, like there's some on the market, they're just really expensive, and that's because of demand and all that sort of thing.
That's like what, like would that be like a 200% increase?
250, yeah, because 200 would be or no, 200, it's anyways, so like a 200% increase.
And that's still a lot. I've definitely like seen way worse than that. When I was watching
Yeah.
a market watch for Magic the other day, and there's buyouts happening right now. The reserve list is specifically being targeted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in itself is people trying to force Wizards of the Coast's hand in abolishing the reserve list and reprinting cards.
Yeah, so just to touch for anyone that doesn't know, the Magic the Gathering reserve list is a list of cards, and Tim, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but essentially it's a list of cards that were printed a long time ago that the company Wizards of the Coast that prints the Magic cards, they said they would never reprint these cards ever again because they're going to be on what's called the reserve list, which is basically cards that will always have value. And a lot of them are very expensive. I think we talked about the cheapest one the other day was like $60, and it's that enchantment you were talking about.
There are others that are still really cheap. They're just not. They're not. Those ones aren't really collectible-y or played in anything. Not even like Commander or anything like that.
It's interesting why they would even put a card like that on a list like that.
It was a collector's thing in the early days of the game. The funny thing about the reserve list, though, for Magic, it's not even like a physical legal document. It was literally like a verbal contract from Wizards.
That's funny. So they're just going off of good faith, saying like, we're not going to reprint these because we said we weren't going to reprint them.
Yeah, basically to not piss off their collectors and the whales for their game. And I guess we can mention that term because that has a lot to do with market for any game, really.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, when someone's referred to as a whale in any game, it is someone who shells out thousands upon thousands, sometimes like in the millions of dollars on product. So like with the like gacha system games, things like Genshin Impact or things like that, there will be whales that spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars just buying the essentially loot boxes to unlock characters and things like that. It's literally the same thing in card games.
Alpha Investments.
Yes. Well, he actually runs an actual business with it, but
yeah, but like that's an example, probably.
Yeah. So in like card games, it's people who just buy like a ridiculous amount of product. And I mean, they could either open it or not open it. It's people just dumping astronomical amounts of money into the game. Usually it's collectors. They'll get what they can for their collection, and then they'll just have a bunch of stuff to sell afterwards. And we've started to see very small instances of that, I feel like, over the last few sets. I'm not going to name drop anything that I've seen. Just to keep things like as formal as I can. I'm not going to name drop anyone. But it's been like very obvious.
Just pay attention to what I said earlier. You'll see the people that are selling things and have multiple play sets of a card that just skyrocketed are the ones that are doing the buying out.
Or things that are released, that day or not even officially released yet.
Yeah, that too. They're buying tons and tons of product, or they're, like I think this episode's kind of like a black market episode because like as players, we have knowledge of when cards come out and when they actually hit like stores, when the stores get their shipments in. And it's like almost like we're exposing people, but we're not dropping names, but like you'll know when people are like, for example, they don't own a brick and mortar store yet they're getting product in because they told Bandai or their distributor that they are a shop, and they order tons and tons of product and it ships to like their house or something, or like their office, their work office or something. And the day the set releases at midnight, uh 12 a.m. or p.m. or whatever it would be a.m. Eastern or something like that. They're like, oh, sales post, I have every card available, sorted, everything. And it's like, okay, that's not actually possible for you to do that and not be like doing what we're describing.
Yeah, I mean, there are some people who do actually own shops that still do that.
Yeah, which is fine.
I mean, there's only like one or two of them, at least in DBS, that I know of, that have a legitimate brick and mortar shop, but they get so much product that they can just mass open and still have product to ship afterwards.
Yeah.
But it's not, I feel like it's not that common in our game.
No, definitely not as much because we're a little bit smaller than some of the other games. And I would say on a product level, like we probably get not quite as much, probably 45-50% as much as any other of the bigger games than us, as far as just pure product in the market.
Yeah, we're honest, and this isn't like a bashing DBS episode or anything. We're just being honest. Like, DBS is not at the level of these other games. It's not at the collectability level. It's not at the value level, and it's like kind of jarring to see the prices on some of these cards because people don't know how to accurately react to collectors coming into the game and into the market, and trying to get like reserve list Magic prices for things.
Yeah. Well, like an example of that, right? I had my TCG open a second ago and I just pulled it back up. I bet you could guess the top 4 most expensive SPRs, so special rares in Dragon Ball, in the entire game right now. I bet you can guess all 4 of them.
SPRs? I mean, I would assume they're from set 1.
No.
Really? I guess I'd be wrong.
Let me just give you a hint. They're all signed.
Oh, I wasn't counting the signed ones.
Those are considered SPRs.
They
were the SPRs of TOP.
The TOP ones.
Yeah. So
I was thinking just regular SPRs.
Actually, that's funny that you mentioned that, because the second 4, so 5, 6, and 8, not number 7, but 5, 6, and 8 are all set 1 SPRs. But the price difference is like, so lowest listings, all of the top row, 400 or more. All of the second row of 4, $40 or less.
That's absurd.
None of those 8 cards are actually playable and good. Like, they're playable, but they're not very good right now.
And something also I want to mention and not have it get too lost amongst all this is you can check to see what things are actually selling at as opposed to what it's showing. There is a way to do that. I'm not going to go into it because it's kind of confusing to just listen to it and try to do it rather than being shown. But you can see that. Also, very important, something I learned dealing with all this with Magic for many years. Check the listings on eBay, but make sure you check the sold listings.
Yeah.
That's extremely important, because then you see what it has actually sold for versus what it's listed at. Because just like with TCGPlayer, those are 2 totally different things the majority of the time when you're dealing with a volatile market.
Yeah, well, because like on either of those websites, I could post a card and then put the price at literally whatever I want. Yeah. And it's not going to sell, but I mean, it's up there.
Yeah, so it's, I don't know. I guess it's kind of a hot topic, honestly. And I may get some flack for, making the comment of, people don't really know how to react to us having an influx of collectors. But again, I'm just being honest based on what I've seen with other games and been a part of.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the whole point of this episode. We're trying to teach you guys how to react, or maybe give you some insight on what's happening. That way you can make a decision with your really expensive card or a card that you wanted because you wanted to collect it, and it just skyrocketed for no reason. And just to give you some, like I said, insight or some knowledge on what's going on, maybe some advice: sell, don't sell, hold on to your card.
Maybe
At the end of the day, it's
buy
up to
now
you.
because you don't honestly see it going down, or maybe wait to buy because you think there's a good chance that it will go back down.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. The importance of collectors in card games.
Yeah. We started with that, and now we're back at it.
Yeah, we touched a little bit on some of like the market terms and terminology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Collectors, I think, ultimately are a good thing.
Yep.
I think it
I
shows long-term
value.
Long-term value for the game. And again, I think with our game, honestly, a lot of that comes from the IP itself.
Yeah, it's really important. The IP is important for any game.
Because, like, if you think about it, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z were extremely popular when a lot of us were kids, and now we're adults with, a lot of us have real adult jobs. A lot of us just have, normal jobs. But there is a difference between the two. And that's not to say something's wrong with either one, but the ones with, large salaried jobs that grew up watching that show are going to be the ones that are collecting.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that, they'll see this and be like, I remember that episode where, the character did that thing on the card or whatever.
Right.
And honestly, with our game, that's probably a large portion of why we're getting collectors. Apart from the influx of like absolute craziness with Pokemon, because that's caused like mass volatility with like every card game.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing though. But again, I do think people need to chill a little bit.
Yeah. Especially if you're getting into the market.
Yeah.
Just relax.
And again, this was the next bullet on this little topic, but understand that if you're going to participate on the market side of things, no matter what it's for, you are in the investment business at that point.
Yeah, one time I saw a quote earlier this week that said that it was like someone saying, I don't know how to invest. And then another person said, you invest every day. You invest time into sleeping. You invest time into drinking a glass of water. You've invested time or money or effort or both or all three. Every decision you make is an investment because you're going to put something in and you're going to get a return. And that's what you need to remember is you're getting the return. And so don't just put something in without getting a return, or getting a return that what you're getting is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah. With investing in anything, my personal recommendation is you do some homework on it for yourself. Study if you want to get into, TCG stocks, and as we called it with that side of things for Magic, I guess it applies to all TCGs. Understand how the TCG market actually works and functions, and not just on TCGPlayer. Like, you got to understand like the buy sell groups on multiple other platforms, timings of things. If something gets spoiled, you need to have like a pretty vast knowledge of things that can affect to act, in the most benefit to yourself. But again, at the same time, I'm not promoting buyouts. I know Caleb is not either. We just want people to be educated and understand both what's going on and what they're doing.
Yeah. And if you ever have any questions and you want to, learn something about the card game market, or just markets in general, economics, whatever, feel free to reach out. you can either comment down below or you can message me personally. I'd love to help you guys learn some about my experience with the market. I know a lot of my friends will, kind of rely on me a little bit to, say, hey, is it a good time to buy this card right now? What should I be looking out to buy? Because especially as a competitive player, we're always trying to get, good deals on cards that are going to be worth it for future decks or something like that. And so just keeping an eye on when cards are low on price or when they're too high and that sort of a thing is always a good skill to learn.
Yeah, definitely. I think the last part of the importance of collectors and stuff in card games is a cool factor, right?
Yeah.
The cool cards are the ones that are gonna more often than not get bought out and retain a good amount of that value afterwards. So like with Pokemon, I think it's no surprise because it's been the same Pokemon for all of eternity.
Every single set.
If a Charizard gets printed,
you should buy
you
one.
You should get one.
Of the highest rarity, whatever it is, just buy one. It's
honestly
guaranteed to go up.
All rarities. Just get the Charizards, period.
They're guaranteed to go up in price.
It may take 3 months. It may take 30 years. It's gonna go up a lot.
I mean, the people that sold their first edition Charizards way back when are really kicking themselves.
Yeah. I don't remember if the one I owned back in the day was first edition or not. But I know I had a good amount of first edition stuff because I think that game started getting printed when I was in like 3rd or 4th grade or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a small little lad. But yeah, so Charizard's 100% every time. You should try to own at least a Charizard. Because you will always have value.
Also, just talking on Pokemon for a second, and this is relevant as well for any character that's not the popular ones that we're mentioning. If you just like a Pokemon or like a Magic card or something, you should buy it because it's really healthy for individuals like ourselves to purchase things that make us feel good. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is like, for example, my friend really likes Dratini or Dragon, whatever the final form is. Sorry, I don't play Pokemon that much, but he really likes Dragonite, and he bought a first edition or like one of the early Dragonites, like this classic one or whatever, way back when because he liked it. It was like $50, and now the card's like $1,000 or something. Yeah. And so just if you like something, there's a good chance somebody else likes it too, and so just buy those things. Buy what you like. There's no shame in that.
Yep. Like there's a few things in Magic that, like, while they may not be good, they're pretty sweet. And like a lot of the times, at least with Magic cards, if it's not competitively playable but the art on it is really good, I'll just buy it anyways because I like how it looks. Yeah. I mean, something will come along at some point in time that makes it playable somehow. Unless the card is just literally meant for drafting and that's it. And
if that never happens, you still
bought something that you thought was cool.
Yeah.
There's no downside to that. Yeah. Yes, Charizard for Pokemon. For Magic, for a long time it was Jace. Specifically Jace the Mind Sculptor. I feel like that's not the case anymore though. That card has been reprinted several times in the last few years, and what used to be like multiple hundreds of dollars for that card for a single copy, it's now only like $50 or $60. Mm-hmm. And that is like a multi-format staple, like Modern, Legacy, Commander, even Vintage. It's a relatively played card. But I mean, you'll you'll notice things. So like, I think with Magic, outside of original dual lands, fetch lands are gonna be probably the best at holding their value because they're never going to not be playable, and it's literally they're stable for every non-standard format.
Yeah, but like if we were strictly saying cool factor cards for Magic,
That one, it kind of depends on like what color you like. So like I usually play black when I play Magic.
Yeah, so like Bitter Blossom.
Yeah, Bitter Blossom is my absolute favorite card. Eventually I want to own every printing of it. So like the original Lorwyn block, the Modern Masters reprint. I think it was in like Ultimate Masters. I think that's the one I have the box topper like full art of. There's the Secret Lair, there's the Judge promo. They're sweet. I think that and Doubling Season are like my two favorite cards in Magic.
Of course they are.
Yeah, and then the newer, I don't know if it was, I think it was Double Masters. That printing of Doubling Season was actually pretty sweet. It has like the little dinosaurs coming out of the eggs.
Oh yeah, that one's cool.
It's pretty sweet. I like that one.
Yeah,
I still prefer the original, but I think the dinosaurs is second place for me.
Dinosaurs are awesome. Everybody loves them.
And obviously for DBS, it's gonna be Goku for most people.
No. I think you meant to say Gohan. The show's about Gohan.
That is true. For me personally, Goku. I know you know this. I'm sure a lot of our listeners have picked up on this by now. If there's a Boo, I'm getting it.
Yeah.
There's probably not very many Majin Boos in this game that I don't have. I know the new Secret Rare is one of them. But I think the OG, the AOD secret, that was like the most ecstatic I had ever been opening packs in this game. And like I've opened quite a few secrets.
Yeah.
Like when I open product in town, it's kind of snapped most of the time. But I've never been so excited as when I opened that Boo.
Busted.
Like one, it was a secret. Two, it was the archetype I wanted to play. But like neither of those things mattered in comparison to it was Majin Buu.
Right, yeah, because you just like that character, you know?
Yeah. The card is absolutely not playable anymore. But it's still freaking casual. Sweet. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite character. So like whether it spikes like the other secrets or not, I love it. Right. And I'm gonna hold it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that little mini rant was just to show that like the cool factor, it's also important.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why collectors come into card games and why it's a good thing. Even if you're not a collector, just keep some cards that you like, because at the end of the day, what more do you need to play games, right? We're all playing games because we like the games. So if you're having fun, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, you know, maybe in a few years I'll have someone come over and just bust out my Majin Buu collection. It'd be pretty sweet.
And then they might be like 10 grand for the lot, and you're like, oh, maybe that 10 grand is worth.
The secret.
I mean, that's probably the whole point. They want the lot, okay?
I'm not selling.
Okay,
you heard it here. We're not selling.
Hold.
We got holding. Diamond hands. For those of you who've paid attention to the GameStop thing, you'll understand that.
Got him.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot more to go over, like market wise. I think we touched on a lot of it. We weren't trying to get into anything ultra specific. It was kind of just a general informative episode.
Yeah. Yep. So before we close here, guys, though, just make sure you guys check out our TCGPlayer affiliate link down in the description. We really appreciate anytime you guys use that link. Personally, I have it just bookmarked on my Google Chrome tab. And so anytime I'm going to buy cards, I can just quickly click that, and then it sends us a little kickback whenever we somebody makes a purchase on our account, basically. And so anytime you guys are buying product, please use that link. We appreciate it greatly. And if you are looking at anything not on TCGPlayer, check out our sponsor, Madtown Gaming. Their website is madtowntcg.com. They help us with all of our stuff here. And then also, like I said in the beginning, check out our new merch. Grab a t-shirt, sweatshirt, women's tee, anything, whatever you're into, coffee cup. We got all that stuff. That's going to be at streamlabs.com/theprodigal/merch. So check it out.
It'll be linked with a much easier link.
Yeah. Whatever's down below. I just try and remember those things.
Yeah. I have them all copied for when I post the videos, so I don't actually remember them because I made a whole bunch of bit.ly links to make everything easier.
Hot.
But yeah, other than that, I think we're gonna be making some changes. I think we might go for a slight rebranding. Just gonna tease it to you guys. We'll still be the sideboard. Might be a little bit of change with that though. New logo in the works. Just some other stuff. Gonna try and dabble into maybe some articles and stuff like that. Give you guys a little bit more variety. But let us know what you guys think down in the comments underneath, or if you're just listening, send us a comment on Facebook, or you can comment through Podbean or whatever you're listening through, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. That I think that wraps it up.
Alrighty, guys. This is the Sideboard Podcast. Checking out.
See ya.